Hello Internet, and welcome back to the Final Fantasy XIV narrative experience. Except that this actually isn't technically part of the narrative experience. This is something that I've had to do for myself. Patch 5.2 had a lot of really important lore moments for the story of Final Fantasy XIV, for the Ascians, for Shadowbringers, and with 5.3 coming up in 24 hours or so, what I thought I needed to do was go back and remind myself of what happened. So I've been back and I've made notes on all of the different MSQ bits, starting from when you head back to talk with Kryl and Maxima and meet with Raban, all the way through to the stuff in the Katana Ravel and so on and so forth. And I figured, well, if this has been useful for me to recap what we have learned, maybe it'll be useful for some of you guys as well. So I'm basically going to lecture you, I suppose. I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to read through my notes and hopefully make some sense of them. They're reasonably well written. So here we go. The footage in the background, I don't even know what it's going to be yet because I'm recording the vocals first. It'll probably just be some random stuff. I'm not going to go through and do, all the cutscenes and stuff because there's no time for that. So we start off with Kryl and Maxima. There's Raban wants a meeting with the Scions, so we go to the Alamegan Quarter in the Locks. He's meeting with Gaius even, who reminds us that he's removed Black Rose, and he talks a little bit about Varys' death. This is basically all set up for the Ruby weapon stuff, which is on its way to Eorzea, one of the prototype Ultima weapons that the Garleans have been developing. Raban and Gaius could do with our help if we have the time. And you can go and do, the Sorrow of Wurlit stuff there if you so desire. If you don't choose to do that, then you can return to the first, where Kryl tells us we need to inform everyone of what has gone on the source, the Ruby weapon, and so on and so forth. So we meet with the Exarch, who's made a little bit of a breakthrough on the soul issue. They're still trying to figure out a way of getting everybody back to the source. The Scions, of course, are very worried about the state of things back home. Varys being dead, Zenos being alive, the Ultima weapons being revived. Fairly troubling things to have to return to. Beck-Lug and the Exarch have sorted an ark, a spirit vessel, that they believe will be able to move soul and body and mind back from the first to the source. But it needs the blood of the Exarch in order to work, and they can't do that yet. They can't figure out a way to get that to work because it's crystal, and it's not like crystal is a sponge. As they're talking about this, Lena shows up requesting to speak to us. We join Alphino. After the conversation's over, we join Alphino, speak to Lena, who is kind of concerned, a little bit concerned, that a Sin Eater has appeared in Lakeland. So we head to Fort Job, where Lena hopes really that we can inspire the troops a bit. And the troops are people that we've met before, including Thaler, who's one of the people that gave us a message for the Warrior of Darkness, not realising who we were back in 5.0. We make it to where the Sin Eater is, only to find that it's already dead. According to the troops that are there, a Warrior of Light has slain it with a single blow of his axe, which obviously raises certain concerns for us. Lena sends away the soldiers and reminds us that the mantle of Warrior of Light has been tainted forever by association with the Flood, even if certain individuals know the truth of the actual heroic deeds of the Warrior of Light, or the Warriors of Light, the group of them. After sending Alphino off, Lena confides her doubts about the Exarch's health to us. She's worried about him, but does admit that he looks younger and happier than he has ever done, and she speculates that he might have peered into the future and, for the first time, found joy there. So while she is concerned at the change, she's happy that it looks like he's actually, for the first time, looking forwards. We ease her mind about how he is and what he thinks of her and their relationship. And we head back to the Crystarium. Back in the Crystal Tower, we listen to Alphino, yay, who proposes a plan about the Warriors of Light and how that we should just simply give the people of the Crystarium the truth. We should just get out there, gather them together, and tell them the full story. After all, we are the Warrior of Darkness. They will listen to us. And the Scions and the Exarch all agree that the people must know the truth of Oddbert and how he helped us defeat Emet-Selch. There's a quick trip around town where we persuade notable NPCs to congregate in the Exeter, and then we go into a big cutscene where there are quite a few people congregating, lots of the NPCs from the Crystarium, and we, the generally mute Warrior of Light, step forward and we tell the people everything. We tell them the truth. And there's a series of little static flashbacks which punctuate the story, reminding us of everything that Oddbert did and how he helped us. And throughout that, you get little intermittent flashes of the people in the Crystarium slowly realising just how wrong they were, the things that they knew about the Warriors of Light and how they vilified them. They've realised the falsehoods of their beliefs. But as we are watching people come to these conclusions, we see Oddbert and the beardless, the younger Oddbert in the background. He's just standing there behind this crowd. And naturally, of course, people notice him and he stands up and he speaks to the crowd. And people point out that, well, you should be dead. And Oddbert says that as the world has been given a second chance, so has he. He's been gifted life. And he talks about the will of the star being responsible for it, which is very particular phrasing, which obviously makes us, as the Warrior of Light or the Warrior of Darkness or people privy to the Ascians, gives us a little bit of skepticism. He also lets slip that at some point we, the Warriors of Darkness, are going to have to return home at some point because we're not from this planet. So these people, these congregated masses, these people that want to help out, must become the Warriors of Light. And, you know, he's typical Ascian. He's charismatic. He's charming. People hang on his words. While he talks, we kind of leave. We return to the Oculus to discuss the turn of events. Alphino stays behind to watch. The Warrior of Darkness, us, we're very adamant that it isn't Oddbert. We know it isn't Oddbert because Oddbert's soul has been joined with ours in the final confrontation. And Ishtola backs us up. She says our soul is exactly the same as it was. So they conclude, Urianger and Ishtola both conclude that it must be what we've already suspected, that it's an Ascian in control of Oddbert's body. They speculate that it's Elidibus and that he knows of Emmet's failure, and because he's got no body of his own after Zenos retrieved it, he's really the only person that it could be. There's a little aside here where Urianger notes that we still don't know why the Ascians can't take possession of us. Is it because we're Hydaelyn's champion? Or is it because of something else? We don't know. Urianger also reminds us that Elidibus is an enigma. His purpose is supposedly, as an emissary, to preserve balance between light and dark. But he also mentions that Elidibus is a self-appointed emissary. So who gave him the title? We don't know. After this discussion concludes, Alphino is noted to follow Oddbert, while we stay back and let Alphino be our eyes. The Scions do, however, agree that we need to prepare for some kind of eventual conflict, and in order to do that, we need knowledge. Ishtola decides to head back to the Vatika Great Wood to do more research as new potential information has come to light, and we, the Warrior of Darkness, accompany her. We meet the sisters in Fano, who remind us it's been quite a long time since we were last there, because the Vatika Great Wood not really used a great deal in the MSQ. and that during that time that we've been away, they've managed to reclaim their hunting grounds, and we head to the Katana Ravel for knowledge and a bit of a solo duty. Naturally, we get into trouble. Doing this, one of the sisters disturbs a statue, awakens an evil, and we have a bit of a puzzle boss to play around with. Fortunately, it isn't Triple Triad. After completing the trial, which doesn't take too long, Mommy Y'shtola admonishes the girls, and we delve deeper into the ruins to find a hero of the Ronkan people. There's a tomb and a mural of a Vis warrior of light, the Archmage Tuna. And on this mural, it shows the meteor shower and is inscribed with a very specific phrase: "By the light of fallen stars, great power awakens." Hinting that, just as happened to us in our very first moments in the game, a meteor shower can awaken great power within you. We're treated to a mini static flashback reminding us of what we've already seen in Amarot, what Emet-Selch told us about the meteor showers signifying the end of days. And Y'shtola speculates, and then chides herself afterwards for doing so, that an event of such tragic magnitude could leave such a deep imprint on the soul that even eons later it could be recalled, even by fragmented souls, given a suitable trigger. Before we return to the Crystarium, we head to Slitherbow to chat to Runar. We help Y'shtola out with the chores, magic brooms and all, and, naturally, Runar overhears Y'shtola talking about leaving for good, because they've got to go back to the source. You know, they're going to die otherwise. We sit down for a celebratory meal, and Alphino, Alizé, and Uyonja show up just as we're scoffing. Alphino tells us that Oddbert has been travelling across Norrent spreading the word and encouraging everyone to become warriors of light, which has been greatly helped by our little pep talk about the truth. Apparently the way he's doing it is every time he goes to a new village, he slays a local sin eater to gain the trust of the local people. It's a pretty clever plan. So naturally, we head to Slitherbow to try and find a local sin eater. We only find one, thanks Reen, and Oddbert does show, and having killed it first, he then reveals exactly who it is. We trick him into revealing that he's not really Oddbert, and it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. We ask him what his goal is, and he reveals that his goal is very simple. He wishes to enact the will of the Convocation, but hints that his nature and purpose are not exactly the same as other Ascians. When confronted with Emmet's final words about "remember us, remember that we once lived," Elidibus gets a little bit frustrated and angry, and he chides his recently deceased comrades, saying that it was a grave error that Emmet had made, showing weakness and asking for compassion. There is, he says, no common ground between us. As far as Elidibus is concerned, his duty is everything. And then he leaves. So, whilst we have a pretty good idea of what his end goal is, we've realised that we don't really know very much about what he plans to do right now. So we go on a second quest for knowledge. We propose a return to the Tempest, because Y'shtola wants to know more about the world that once was about Elidibus. If they can find out more about Elidibus, then maybe they can work out what he plans to do in the more immediate future, so that they might try and stop his longer term goals. She figures that there are most likely more ruins down there and that we should explore them. Everyone agrees. So, we head onwards to visit the Ondo in the Tempest. We speak to Tolshath about ruins we have yet to explore, and he tells us that he does know of such a place, but before he can help us with that, we get caught up in dealing with the Benthos, a bloodthirsty tribe of Ondo. We have to go and recover some liver. We meet the Shoebill, which is staring at Reen intently. It's a reasonably meaningless side quest, or at least it seems to be. We return the goods to the Ondo. We're given information that the Benthos Queen is likely to give birth soon, and that the ruins might be a good place for that to happen, which is things coming together. And Urianger suggests that he knows somebody who might be able to help them get to it. So naturally we head to Sullen to converse with everybody's favourite whale, Bismarck. After some brief hilarity, I'd argue it's played for comedy value with Urianger and his water walking. We're reminded that the connection between our friends and their mortal bodies might be becoming a little bit untethered. After a chat and some barnacle cleaning, we have a chance for a little rest so that Urianger and Thancred can recuperate. Naturally, during this time, we are interrupted by distraught fishermen and go to do some mini-heroics versus the Nightshade, a band of outlaws. However, we get there to find that Thaler and friends have already dealt with the problem, having been inspired to do some adventuring heroics by the words of Oddbert/Elidibus. In fact, Urianger is a bit saddened that they are inspired by so problematic a figure as the Ascian, but he can't deny their enthusiasm. Next up, we dive beneath the waves from the coast of Calusia and set to exploring the ruins of Anamnesis Anida, accompanied by some incredibly jazzy music. Fighting our way past the Ondo, we find ourselves in a Moritine archive of concepts, and having killed the final boss, a console lights up, and from this we are treated to some holographic cutscenes where we learn of some very significant things. So I'm going to go through these in a chunk of detail. First of all, the diplomatic Ancient One warns his fellows that, in the wake of Zodiac's summoning, the world has not been granted salvation, it has been granted a reprieve. The danger, they believe, is not over. The immutable laws, the weaving of reality that Zodiac has done isn't going to fix the problem. That's what they believe. One of their colleagues, the distressed Ancient One, says that he warned the Convocation as such, but they were stubborn and would not listen. He goes on to say that he hoped the Defector, the 14th member of the Convocation that left, would side with them, but their overtures have not been replied to. And then they turn to Vannar for their thoughts. Vannar, it seems, is their leader, and they will follow where Vannar leads. Vannar refuses to speak ill of the Convocation, for they know that they too seek to secure the future of the planet. Even though they're going about it in different ways, their actual goal is, as far as Vannar is concerned, a noble one. But they are concerned that the Convocation's plan lacks permanence, and that they have got a better solution, even if it means the damnation and the condemnation from their brethren. They will bring forth the light to keep the darkness in check, to achieve balance. And that's where that first cutscene ends. So we go and tinker with the console, and this came as quite a surprise to me. We actually get a second archived record. I thought it was going to cut off at the first one, but no. In the second archived record, we see once again the diplomatic Ancient One pleading with Vannar that it should not be they that forms the heart of Hydaelyn. Vannar assures their friend that they shall not vanish from this world. The form I take shall ever remain my choice. Which is a very interesting and very specific thing to say, which will undoubtedly have some relevance in the coming patch. The diplomatic Ancient One wonders if the way he or she or they feel about Vannar's upcoming sacrifice is how the Convocation members felt about Elidibus's, leading us to the belief that the Elidibus in the time before the Sundering became the heart of Zodiac, and raising a whole ton of questions about the Elidibus that we've been dealing with and their role as an emissary. Who or what are we dealing with? Zodiac was summoned before the Sundering, so Ishtola does speculate that the Elidibus we are dealing with could be a quickly elevated successor, but recognises that that doesn't quite ring true. There's something a bit off about that speculation. So she stays behind in Anamnesis Anidir to see if she can retrieve more info from the console while we head to the surface, because we need to buy her time. So we head over to the Exarch to see if he's made any more progress on the spirit vessel. Here, in the Exedra of the Crystarium, we find the Exarch surrounded by members of the Guard and other people, but people that want to quit the Guard. They want to get out there into the world. They want to help people, just how we started out. They've been inspired, and not a whole lot you can say to disagree with that. I mean, that's how we started out, and Alphino points out the same thing, and I actually ended up having to agree with Alphino here. Damn you, game. And it's in that instance of me having to agree with Alphino that all hell breaks loose, just as I knew it would. Clouds surge across the sky, the music stops, everybody looks for that, everyone looks up, a hole opens in the heavens, stars fall, and the gathered people begin to hear a very familiar voice. Hear, feel, think. Oddbert, quote unquote, shows up, proclaiming that the gathered would-be adventurers are warriors of light. And just like that, the star shower's gone. Oddbert says that those gathered here are hearing the voice of light and that they have been blessed by its power. And then, as they talk about it amongst themselves with his work done, he goes to leave. But naturally we don't let him get away that easy. We catch up to him, we confront him, and he admits that the stars were his doing. But despite Alphino pressing him for what's going on, he's not going to reveal his plans just like that. He describes the star shower as a convenient illusion apt to awaken what little is left of the power that once resided in your sundered souls. A very specific phrase, which harkens back to the tomb of Tuna, which is why that bit was there, to foreshadow this, and also to make sure that we heard it from somebody that wasn't an Ascian, so that it would have more believability. And this basically boils down to one thing. The echo is not what we believe it to be. It is an echo of a symphony, a tiny remembrance, a fragment of the power the ancients once held in their completeness. It is, as Elizabeth says, a whisper of our past burned into your very ether, along with the sight of our end. It is not, as we've often believed, a gift from Hydaelyn, but the very prerequisite to hearing her voice in the first place. It is the awakening of the echo that allows us to hear Hydaelyn in the first place. And she has, at times, created illusions or dragged comets out of the sky to awaken champions, just as she did with us, to activate the echo in us so that we might hear her. It's at this point that we claim that, Elidibus has got bad intentions, that he is our foe. And he says no. He's not our foe. He's a warrior of light who, with his new comrades in arms, will save the world, just like we're trying to do. And then, in full view of everybody, he just teleports away. Big revelations. As we're mulling all this over, the Exarch says a lot of these adventurers, they're going. They've heard Hydaelyn's voice. They believe that they are chosen. Nothing's going to stop them now. And he asks us to go and speak to many of them to impart some words of wisdom, just like Merlewib once did for us. And we do. We go find Thaler and co. And we impart what little words of wisdom the options are given to us. And having set off the inexperienced on their way, we return to the Exarch and we discuss what to do next. Thancred heads off to stalk Elidibus. The rest of us stick around to not draw any attention for a while, as well as to work on the spirit vessel. In fact, pretty much everybody insists that we return to our suite in the Pendants to rest, especially Alizé and Reen. After a quiet moment, we are, of course, interrupted. We're always interrupted when we're trying to rest. This time it's by Glynard, who brings someone to see us, and this very much changes depending on which of the role quests that you've done. I'll stick a link in the corner to my video with all the different role quest responses for this bit, so that you can check them out if you haven't seen them for yourself. Meanwhile, in the Umbilicus, the Exarch, Urianger and Becklug are working on the spirit vessel. It's not going well. The Exarch appears to be turning almost fully to crystal. We hear the creaking of his arm as it solidifies, or at least that's what it seemed to me. But he pushes on. And finally, we get a very interesting cutscene back on the Source, where we are treated to a vision of Zenos stalking through Amarot, watching the final days as the city burns. We're confused for a moment, but then we see him wake up and talk about it being a dream, talking to a mysterious figure in white. It's very interesting, in my opinion, that Zenos says that he has always had this dream. He's always dreamed of it, the death of this world. And I'm not entirely sure, actually, that I picked up on that when I played it through for the first time. The white-robed figure wonders, muses to himself if Emet-Selch could have found a way to do what we don't know yet, nor do we really know who this figure is. And then this figure reveals that they have mostly second-hand knowledge of the final days, but he will gladly fill Zenos in with what details that he knows. And that is where patch 5.2 ended. Now, this was really useful for me in reminding me of what had gone on. And I do think it was quite useful for me actually going through those cutscenes again and taking a second look at the details. You know, it's been several months now anyway since we played through 5.2. It was February, if I remember correctly. So we're a slightly longer ways off than we would normally be between patches. But also there was a lot of lore stuff to unpack here. I've tried to keep any speculation out of this. I've just tried to recount what has been said and how it has been said. And I hope this refresher, such as it is, has been useful for you all. If it has been, leave a like, comment below, and enjoy yourselves in patch 5.3. Naturally, I will be continuing my narrated experience when the patch goes live, assuming I can get in on launch day. You know what the servers tend to be like, especially for a patch that is essentially the end of the expansion's storyline. There are going to be a lot of people who want in on that ASAP. Until next time, folks, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe out there. May you ever walk in the light of the crystal. Cheerio! Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not click the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, you can ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, cheerio.